Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. Hey, we're lucky we've been invited to do our segments this time at the Legacy Barn just west of Kokomo off of State Road 22. Great facility. They do a lot of weddings. They have music entertainment out here and rooms, and man, it's a fantastic place, and we certainly do appreciate it. Okay folks, what I'd like to do today is there's been a number of situations come up that I've been made aware of, and some of them I've even been involved in. Everybody wants to go deer hunting, and they want to get a deer or they wouldn't be going in the first place. And there's a lot of times that, conflicts happen, disagreements happen in deer camp. And over my 60 years, I've had the honor and the pleasure of attending several hundred different camps all over Indiana and Wisconsin, all over the Midwest. And if you happen to be hunting in a group, there's some things that I think needs to be brought out to be discussed before the deer season starts. I wrote an article here recently, and I've seen this situation happen, and it can be ugly. I've seen close friends dissolve their friendship over a certain issue, and that issue is, whose deer is it? I just wrote an article here a couple of weeks ago for the Kokomo Lantern, and I've got a lot of people that emailed me and messaged me on my phone about how they appreciated that article. Okay, this situation has grown, and it used to be very unheard of. But let's say you're hunting with some guys, and maybe Bob is hunting a tree stand over along the edge of a cornfield, all right? Maybe Joe is hunting maybe 100 yards from Bob, but he's deeper in the woods. They cannot see each other. They don't know if that guy's seeing a deer or if this guy's seeing a deer. Okay, Bob's out there and he's looking across this field, and he can see it a long ways. He sees this nice deer coming. It's a nice buck. Okay, he decides he's going to shoot that animal. So he stands up with his bow or with his gun, whatever weapon he's got. All right. He shoots at that animal. He sees the arrow hit the animal. There's only two places on a deer that you can hit them to drop them immediately on the spot, and they will not get back up. And both places are extremely small targets. Number one is the brain. You put a bullet or an arrow into the brain, that deer is going instantly. It's going to drop right there. There'll really be no pain involved to it, but there'll be no suffering. Okay, the other place is if you hit the deer in the spinal cord. The spinal cord, if a deer is walking by you, it's just a couple inches under the top of the back. Any spinal cord injury is going to drop that deer on the spot, and they're going to be paralyzed. Now, they're still going to be alive. And most of the time, if this happens, and it has happened to me, I've shot them in the spine. They drop instantly on the spot. You have to go to it and use a second shot to dispatch that animal. Okay, back to the story. Bob shoots this animal and takes off running through the woods. Joe, like I say, is 100 yards inside of the woods. He's in there where all the trees are, and you can't see very far, and there's bushes. He sees this buck coming to him. He does not know that Bob over on the cornfield, he shot that deer. Okay, that deer comes in. Joe stands up. He draws his bow back. He makes a shot on the deer, and he sees his arrow hit that deer. The deer runs a short distance and drops. Okay, he waits. They always say wait 30 minutes after you make a hit on a deer to start tracking, because that deer will normally go a short distance and lay down and not be able to get back up. He waits 30 minutes, then he climbs down out of his tree. He approaches that deer, then here comes Bob from a cornfield. He tells Joe, hey, I shot a nice buck. Help me find it. Joe didn't realize that this buck had been shot first by Bob over at the cornfield, all right? They get to looking, then they finally determine that both of them hit this deer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's where whose deer is it comes into effect. Now, this needs to be addressed, like I said, before deer season starts. And everyone in your group, whether it's 2 or 3 or whether it's 20, Everybody in the group needs to be on the same page in case this happens. Bob and Joe were close friends. They'd done a lot of camping together. They'd done a lot of fishing together. They worked together. They seen each other every day, and they were as close as brothers, all right? Okay. Whose deer is it? Come to find out that when Bob shot that deer, he shot it a little far back and into the hip. There's not very many vital organs in the hip area. There is a femoral artery. If that femoral artery is hit, that deer will hemorrhage and not go very far. Come to find out that the femoral artery was not hit. But when that buck ran by Joe, he placed his arrow through the lungs, got complete penetration. The lungs is within the kill zone of the deer. The kill zone encompasses the heart, the lungs, the liver. A little farther back than that, you get into the stomach, which is fatal, but that deer is going to travel a long way. Now, how do you determine whose deer that is? Some groups that I hunted in says the guy that shot the arrow first, even though it was in the hip, he drew the blood on the animal. Most groups will agree that the first vital hit equals possession of that animal, okay? But they had a hard time distinguishing. Joe said, well, when I shot that deer, that turned that deer and that went over your direction. Well, that may be true. But that deer would have traveled a long way with that hit in the hip. It might have ended up being crippled. It might have ended up never being recovered. It might have been eaten by a coyote or a pack of farm dogs that go around the area quite a bit. In all rights, and in my opinion, yours may be different, but in my opinion, most of the places would agree that Joe should have that deer because he shot it in the vital area. And that deer dropped 20 or 30 yards from where Joe hit it. But there again, I have been witness to some of these guys, and these guys cussed each other out. I've seen them actually threaten bodily harm. I've actually seen them hit each other. And once again, folks, these guys were close friends, just like brothers. And now they're fighting over a deer. I like to be successful. I like to get a deer. But to me, there's not a deer in that woods worth risking the friendship of the guys that I've known for all the years. And I've hunted with some great guys. But I think if you're going to be ever facing this situation, you need to find out and you need to discuss it as a group and everybody agree. That way, if this does happen, if it comes by me, if I shoot that deer, maybe I shoot it in the ankle. That deer is not going to die. I know that. I've been around deer so long, an ankle or a foot is not going to kill that deer. And then if it goes by my cameraman, Curtis, if he's over there, if he shoots that deer through the heart or through the lungs, I'm going to congratulate him. I'm going to pat him on the back. I'm going to give him a man hug, but that's as far as it's going to go. I mean, you see some of these guys on TV, they're celebrating, they're doing end zone dancing. There's nothing wrong with celebrating getting a deer as long as it's done respectfully. I'll kneel down, I'll say a prayer, I'll take my cap off, and I honor that deer. I've got the most respect for a deer as anybody. Yes, I like to take them and put them in the freezer. I like to feed my family and my friends with them. But that is a situation that I think every deer camp needs to address. Whose deer is it? That way you're not going to be losing friends. I don't know for sure what comes out of it. I've hunted with guys that if I get a shot on a deer, even if it's early in the morning, I will give up my morning hunt to help that guy track that deer, help him field dress it, help him get it back to the truck. And most of the guys that I've ever hunted with would do the very same for me. But that's camaraderie, and that's part of enjoying a good hunt. So bear that in mind, folks. I'm not trying to stir up any controversy. I'm trying to kill a fly that's trying to haul me out of here. But I want to thank you for joining us on Outdoors with Bud. I want to wish you good luck in the woods, but think it over. Whose deer is it? And face the facts that you're not going to get a deer every day. You might not even see them. Okay, folks, once again, thanks for joining me on Outdoors with Bud. Look forward to having you come back And want to say thanks again to the Legacy Barn for having us out here. See you down the road. Good luck.